All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. We're very excited to share these results to you today. Somewhere over the rainbow, how marketers can support Pride Month and avoid rainbow washing. We're going to show you a series of ads here today, and then we're going to show you live scientific evidence of the impact of these ads on brands, as well as on perceptions of groups of people. If you're here, I'm sure you're interested in the topic, and I want to dive right in by watching some ads. To give you a sense of where we're going here today, Sentient is on a mission to increase empathy for the human condition. The technology you're going to see here today measures emotion and its cognitive antecedents. That's essentially measuring how people truly feel and why. We believe at Sentient that if we provide access to these two key pieces of the human experience, how people feel and why they feel that way, we have the potential to impact empathy at a global scale. And that's our mission. Hopefully at the end of this presentation today, you'll see we're making some progress on that mission. So as we get into this presentation, I'll show you a series of ads that have been generated by brands in support of June Pride Month. And we're going to do, after we watch these ads, we're going to do a poll to get a sense of how you feel about these ads and whether you think they're good for the brand. So here is the first one. It is from North Face.
Nature lets you be who you are. Even gay. Ladies and gentlemen, you are cordially invited to the Summer of Pride with my friends at the North Face. We're traveling all the gay across America, and everyone's invited. That means you.
Me.
And you.
Hello.
And you.
Wow.
Not you, though. You're too cute. Okay, just kidding. You can come. Put on your boots and come out. Side with us. See you there, besties. Don't you think this is all a little intense? I mean, look at you. You're in a literal tent right now. But no, this event will not be intense. Everyone is invited. Everyone is welcome. It's going to be so fun.
Anybody notice the carabiners for earrings? That's from North Face. How about this one? Tell me if this emotional tone resonates for the brand.
A found family consists of the people that you gather along the way that just feel like home, and they're the people that you can be your most authentic self with.
These are the people that I can have deep conversations with, have conversations about my identity.
I don't know, there's something special about being loved when they don't have to love you.
3 words that best describe my found family would have to be loyal,
Rambunctious,
loving, caring.
Patient is definitely one of them.
Warmth, joy,
genuine, and talented.
I can't describe it. Like the joy is immense, the comfortability is immense.
Every time we're together, it's a celebration.
My found family, like they get me on so many levels.
Having my found family has really pushed me to become who I want to be and my authentic self.
That's from Converse. Different emotional tone to that one. And
A
different
found-
kind of approach. Here's one from Kaiser Permanente.
We know firsthand the role equity plays in enabling full, abundant, healthy lives. That's why Kaiser Permanente stands with our LGBTQ colleagues, patients, friends, and family members against any form of discrimination. We are committed to creating a more just, healthy, and equitable workplace and community during Pride Month and beyond. Kaiser Permanente stands for equity for all.
How about that? All right, let's do one more. This is from Calvin Klein.
I think chosen family is...
Let me tell you a story.
The bond that I have with this family is probably better than my own family.
Intimacy that you know that you can be vulnerable with.
This is someone that I actually, capital L, love.
Love
We're just saying this is love, right?
You are lucky enough to be loved. It's the most specialist thing ever, you know?
No matter what we came from, none of us fit in our own minority or majority.
He is my blood, but he also is chosen. I feel like I chose him from the universe, and I was like, I gotta go to Earth. You should come with me.
I'll finish your thought.
This is love.
All right, let's do a poll. We want to understand whether the Pride ad improved the brand's appeal. You should see this poll now up on your screen, and you can vote for the Kaiser Permanente. Actually, each one, single choice, did it improve the brand's appeal? Yes or no? Just an opinion. Yes or no? Do you think it improved the brand's appeal? Calvin Klein, Kaiser Permanente, the North Face, and Converse. Let that roll while we're collecting some data. I see those responses are coming in. It's really interesting to think about that kind of question, because there's two essential elements of the advertising, whether it's engaging, is it good entertainment, is it captivating, does it break through, does it capture and maintain your attention and your emotional engagement. But that's only half the equation. The other half is actually influence. What impact does it have? If you're an advertiser, you're very much interested in the impact on your brand or the influence of the advertisement on your brand. And that's what this question is. Did the Pride ad improve the brand's appeal? Maybe engaging, may or may not improve the brand's appeal. Okay, we just took a quick poll there, and we're going to share some of these results. We'll see how everybody voted. Let's see. In general, we see Kaiser Permanente. No, don't think that improved it for the brand. Calvin Klein, no, people didn't think that improved appeal for the brand. North Face, we're split 50-50. And Converse, we've got 50-50 as well. So it looks like the opinions are actually kind of split on these ads. Well, I think that's actually one of the key questions for us is, do we have to rely on opinions to understand the efficacy of our brand? In an age of automated behavioral science, we believe we can rely on scientific evidence of the efficacy of an ad rather than simply relying on opinions of whether people think it's good for the brand or not. So with that poll, let's launch into some actual results. I'll show you first the research design. As we go into these tests, this studying approach is called subtext, and it combines the most advanced emotional intelligence technologies to capture both the engagement of an ad and the influence of the ad. And we're going to use two different technologies within the platform to measure engagement and influence. Engagement, again, is breakthrough, and it's capturing and maintaining an emotional connection with your audience. That's measured via facial action coding. This is the systematic movement of the muscles in the face while consumers are watching an ad, which give insight into the emotions that they're expressing. Influence is measured with implicit association technology, Sentient Prime, which measures the change in the non-conscious mind, the implicit brand appeal from before watching the ad to after watching the ad. We're not going to ask opinions about whether this was influential. We're actually just going to measure whether it was influential. And I'll show you the power of combining these two technologies into something the advertising research world has never seen before. This is Sentient Expression. Sentient Expression is a webcam-based facial action coding platform. It measures systematic movement in the face and the body. Within an ad, we capture 30 images of the face per second, which gives us incredible precision for the movement of the face, and it moves in systematic ways when consumers, viewers watch an ad and they experience emotions and they express those emotions on their face. It's run through webcam, so it's scaled and doesn't require you to bring people into a laboratory environment. You can test people in their home, in their natural environments, where they would actually be watching the ads. The second measure is implicit associations. This is Sentient Prime. It's been around for 15 years, and it is a measurement of the neural network associations that you have in your mind. When we do ad testing, we're interested in this question. What if we could treat ad testing like other diagnostic testing with scientific evidence rather than opinions of whether an ad is effective or not? That's what Sentient Prime delivers. It's going to show us the implicit appeal of a brand before and after exposure to an advertisement. And since implicit associations measure the non-conscious, this measurement technique does not fall prey to the can't say, won't say problem. That's particularly important when you're trying to measure the impact of something like Pride advertising. What people want to tell you in a survey, what they're willing to tell you in a survey, can be quite different from what's actually happening in their non-conscious minds. Sentient Prime, the implicit association technique, is a perfect match for this kind of research because we'll be able to understand how people feel without having to rely solely on what they say. We want to take it a step further, though. We don't want to simply end with the business outcome of a benefit for the brand. And we want to ask the audience this question. What if decreasing implicit social bias was one of your advertising KPIs? Imagine a world where the technology enables advertisers to answer both questions. Is my ad good for my brand? And is my ad good for people? The application of Sentient Prime can deliver both answers to both of those questions. That's actually the root of this technology. It was born out of the implicit bias literature, developed to study implicit bias towards groups of people. By using groups of people within the Sentient Prime platform, we can understand whether advertising has changed attitudes towards others, not simply whether it's changed attitudes towards our brand. We'll show you some evidence of that and eager to get your feedback on whether you think that's a valuable application of facial action coding and the measurement of the non-conscious mind. Here's the research design so everyone can interpret the results. We're going to send 340 consumers into this automated behavioral science platform. We're going to measure the baseline associations towards the brand. So Kaiser Permanente, North Face, Calvin Klein, et cetera, some of those ads that you just saw. We want to measure a baseline appeal, an implicit appeal towards that brand. We'll also measure brand attributes to understand the character of the change in attitudes that we're achieving through our brand advertising. That's our baseline. After we establish a baseline, we'll expose them to the advertising. We'll turn on Sentient Expression, a webcam-based facial action coding technology that's opt-in and measures moment-by-moment emotional expression while people are viewing the ads. This is your engagement. This is not the whole story, but it is the first part of the story. You need to be able to engage your audience first if you expect to influence them. And that brings us to the third step in this very simple scientific process. It is a post-exposure measurement of the same variables that we captured a baseline on. So we're able to observe causal change in attitudes. It's causal, meaning we have a baseline, we have an intervention, which is the exposure to your advertising, and then we have an outcome, the influence of your ad, both on brand attribute associations and implicit emotional appeal towards your brand. So we've captured change in the non-conscious mind, and we are able to attribute that change to exposure to your ad. We're going to have some questions coming in during the ad. I see they're starting during the presentation. I see they're starting to come in. We'll get to those as soon as we can. Thank you. Please keep asking them and we'll address them as we go. As you're going to see, you can have both positive and negative outcomes for your brand. While creators would love to think that everyone is going to love their ads, typically you've got a group of people who are really happy about that ad and have a good positive outcome, but you also have negative outcomes. The power of this platform is that you're able to not only specify the positive and the negative outcomes, you can then cut your emotional journey data by that change in attitude. This allows you to pinpoint the moments of your creative that are related to the change in the non-conscious mind of your consumers. And we'll illustrate the power of that through the Calvin Klein ad. So let me show you these results. In each of these cases, we measured 6 different brand attribute associations using a quick conscious judgment task, swiping and response time data that measures enhanced conscious measurement, that measures the change in attitude from before exposure to after exposure to an ad. In this case, this is Calvin Klein. You can see we have directional lifts in all 3 of these positive attributes. These are attribute associations towards the Calvin Klein brand. You can see there's a significant change at the 95% confidence interval on supportive. After viewing this ad, which is good for the brand, consumers feel that the brand is more supportive. And again, this is not an opinion. We didn't ask people, hey, after watching that, do you think Calvin Klein is more supportive? We simply measured the quick conscious associations with the brand before and after, and we observed change, causal change due to exposure to the ad. Going a step further, that's change in the conscious mind with an advanced conscious measure. We also have change in the non-conscious mind. That may sound magical. It's not. That is actually the state of automated behavioral science. And any brand advertiser can measure the change in the non-conscious mind of their consumers and get that insight in 24 hours. That's the power of automated behavioral science. We don't have to rely on opinions anymore. We can rely on scientific evidence of the efficacy of our ads. In this case, we see before exposure, the implicit appeal of Calvin Klein. 100 on this scale is neutral. You can see that there's a lift. Is that a significant lift? It is. Statistically significant at the 95% confidence interval. We have, after a single exposure to the Calvin Klein spot, a lift in the implicit emotional appeal. The non-conscious implicit appeal of the Calvin Klein brand improves after a single measure of this, a single exposure to this ad, pardon me. But remember, not everyone is going to have the same change in attitude. The power of this platform is in its ability to pinpoint the moments that change implicit attitudes for better or for worse. Remember, we're going to have a positive outcome group and we're going to have a negative outcome group. We want more positive than we do negative. We're not going to get 100% with all of our ads. So let me show you the power of combining those 2 pieces of information. You know that you've got a group of people who end up feeling more positive implicitly towards your brand after a single viewing of this ad. You've got a group of people who end up feeling implicitly negative towards your brand after watching your ad. In Pride ads, you can imagine that they're going to be divisive. They're going to have groups that agree and groups that have positive outcomes, and you're going to have groups that disagree and have negative outcomes. It is a polarizing topic, particularly here in America. So once we have identified those groups, the platform will automatically cut the emotional data by the change in the non-conscious mind. If you're with me, you've got causal change in the non-conscious mind, and now we can go back and see which moments of the ad are related to that causal change. So I'm going to play this. You'll see the dotted line are the people who end up having less implicit appeal for the brand after watching. The solid line are the people who end up with more positive implicit appeal for the brand after watching. See if you can find the moments that determine the differences between these 2 groups, the emotional moments of this ad. Here we go.
I think Chosen Family is...
Let me tell you a story.
The bond that I have with this family is probably better than my own family.
Intimacy that you know that you can be vulnerable with.
This is someone that I actually, capital L, of.
You're saying this is love, right?
You are lucky enough to be loved. It's the most specialist thing ever, you know?
No matter what we came.
I think chosen family.
Lost you there? Are you still able to see?
None of us fit in our own minority or majority.
He is my blood, but he also is chosen. I feel like I chose him from the universe, and I was like, I gotta go to Earth. You should come with me.
I'll finish your thought.
This is love.
If you can see that, there are a few key moments in this ad that are related to the change in implicit emotional appeal. Here, right here is a key moment. You can see the difference between people who end up more positive implicitly towards Calvin Klein and the different emotional experience of that moment among people who end up negative. Really important insight on what people are reacting to, how they're feeling, and why they're feeling that way. You'll see as we continue on. So I'm going to jump now into our platform and show you these results live. All right, as you can now see, we're in the platform. This is the Calvin Klein ad that we just viewed. Now this is live and it allows you to cut the data in any way that you may find interesting. If we look at this, at these results, these are the changes in attitudes that you just were able to see within PowerPoint. I'm going to drop the emotional memory analysis and just show you the overall emotional journey of total respondents. I think what's really important as you try to interpret facial action coding data is to understand that negative emotion is not necessarily a negative thing for your brand. Negative emotion is a powerful mechanism for delivering positive insights to your brand, positive impact on your brand, if your brand can come in and be ultimately the hero towards that negative impact. Beyond just implicit emotional appeal, negative and positive implicit emotional appeal, we have changes in brand attributes. And as you can see, this is all significantly different. Supportive, more supportive after watching this ad. Slightly more confusing, but here is your data on implicit change in emotional appeal. So here's your baseline and here's your significant change. This ad actually not only lifts implicit perceptions for Calvin Klein, but it depresses some of the attitudes towards competitive brands. The ideal profile within an implicit emotional appeal change is a differentiated impact for your brand versus your competitor brands. Once you have that data, you can actually select according to those attributes that are significant changes and pinpoint the emotional journey of the people who had the change in attitude. And so as you watch this ad, we'll be able to see the moments that are related to the causal change in attitude of Calvin Klein being perceived as more supportive.
I think chosen family is...
Let me tell you a story.
The bond that I have with this family is probably better than my own family.
Intimacy that you know that you can be vulnerable with.
I'm going to pause here. Another note, as you're interpreting this type of data, this emotional stream of data, emotional expression happens after the moment where the emotion is invoked. So you want to look for the change moments within your graphic of moment by moment emotional experience. So here we start to see positive change in emotional experience among people who feel Calvin Klein is more supportive after watching this ad. If I play, you'll see that the key moments are when we start talking about love.
This is someone that I actually, capital L, love.
We're just saying this.
It's really delivered authentically. This is someone that I actually capital L love. You feel that as you watch this, you feel that's an authentic expression of love. And among people who feel Calvin Klein is more supportive after watching this ad, they too feel that, and they feel it to a great degree, as you can see with the red line. If we use this tool to analyze moment by moment the key elements of this ad, this gives you the insight into what's working. This gives you the insight into how you're actually changing attitudes using this creative approach. Now, this was an ad that was actually effective. We were split as an audience with our opinions. We went 50-50, weren't sure whether this was going to be good for the brand or not. But as we scroll and see, this is actually quite good for the brand. It's more implicitly appealing afterward, and it's perceived, the brand is perceived as more supportive. And it's through that authentic expression of emotion. So let me jump into another one. We had questions about Converse, and we have some others that we'll show you as well. This is the ad that we watched at the beginning of the webinar. You'll see the emotional trace of the viewers while they watch this ad, and see, before we cut the data in any way, if you can determine the moments that are good or bad for this brand.
A found family
Very
consists
different
of the
emotional
people that you
tone.
gather along the way that just feel like home, and they're the people that you can be your most authentic self with.
These are the people that I can have deep conversations with, have conversations about my identity.
I don't know, there's something special about being loved when they don't have to love you.
3 words that best describe my found family would have to be loyal,
Rambunctious,
Loving, caring.
Patient is definitely
The smile, the authentic smile, patient, the head turn, and you see a nice rise in emotional response here. But this downward trajectory here, this is not intentional negative emotion. When we use negative emotion in advertising, it's intended. We want it to be negative. We're not actually intending to evoke negative emotion with this story here. So this tells you that the audience may be reacting negatively to something you're doing here in the creative. Let's see if we can understand why we have these negative reactions. If we come down into the results and we look and zoom in on the implicit appeal, you can see actually that this ad is not, in the general population, not producing a positive implicit lift for the Converse brand. This isn't significant, but it is not going in the right direction. In fact, the entire category is headed in the negative direction after a single exposure to this ad. So we're interested in why, right? What's going on there? Why do we have this negative impact? Well, if we look at the attribute changes, we see an increase in quick conscious perceptions of fake towards Converse after watching this ad. It's not coming across as sincere. As you can see, we have an increase in insincerity for the brand. And it's kind of confusing. I don't really understand why this is coming from Converse. Is this authentic to Converse? While the product is shown in certain areas throughout the brand, this isn't a message about Converse, right? So can we understand why? Well, we can take a look at this and we can understand what the emotional journey is among people who feel that the brand is more fake after watching it. And lo and behold, it is this moment here.
Describe my found family would have to
this
definitely one of
the negative trajectory of viewers as we get into this sequence in the middle of this ad. We knew that it was negative before we highlighted people who thought it was more fake, right? We said this might be an area of concern for this advertisement. Then we isolate the people who had a negative change in their attitudes. And we say, what was their emotional experience? And gosh, look at that. How negative is their emotional experience during that sequence?
Conversations about my identity.
I don't know, there's something special about being loved when they don't have to love you.
3 words that
Converse
best
comes on the
describe my
screen.
found family would have to be
Them.
Loving, caring.
Something special about being loved when they don't have to love you.
Now, right here is where we start to see the negative emotional reaction from the audience of those people who feel Converse is more fake after watching this. We're telling a story. There's something special about being loved when they don't have to love you, is what's being spoken there. And then we go to the product shot. How's this relevant to what we just heard? Well, among people who feel that the brand is more fake after watching this, we see a pronounced negative emotional reaction. And this automated tool allows you to do that on any of the attributes where you see significant changes. Again, the drop there with the product shot. And insincerity, we start out more positive. We think this is good, more positive among people who end up feeling more insincere, but they have an emotional drop off in the middle of this ad as well. As you're looking at these results, if you could have these results in 24 hours before you put your Pride ad out into the marketplace, you might make some edits to the copy. More importantly, if you had this insight on authentic expression from a brand before you went into production, you might approach the production, the creative ideas around your Pride ads in a different way, in a way that's authentic to the moment, in a way that's authentic to the community, and in a way that's authentic to your brand. If you can nail those three types of authenticity, you're going to nail Pride advertising without rainbow washing. Just gave away the results on Kaiser Permanente by showing you that implicit emotional appeal. But here's this journey. We'll come down, this is the Kaiser Permanente results, and we'll take a look at that implicit emotional appeal for Kaiser Permanente. If I zoom in, you can see in the beginning, before exposure to any advertising, the attitude, the implicit appeal of Kaiser Permanente is kind of neutral. It's not significantly lower than 100, and 100 is neutral on this scale. After a single exposure to this ad, very different approach, very different tone, very different message, we see among the US general population a significant lift in the implicit appeal of the Kaiser Permanente brand. What is driving that significant change in implicit emotional appeal towards the Kaiser Permanente brand? Well, you can isolate the people who had that change in their non-conscious mind and take a look at their journey. If we do isolate that, you're going to see total respondents, US general population, starts here. And then those with more implicit appeal for the brand after viewing, they are the blue line on the top. So let's watch the results as we get into this ad.
Abundant, healthy lives. That's why Kaiser Permanente stands with our abundant, healthy lives.
Come on back.
And enabling full, abundant, healthy lives. That's why Kaiser Permanente stands with our LGBTQ colleagues, patients, friends, and family members against any form of discrimination. We are committed to creating a more just, healthy, and equitable workplace and community during Pride Month and beyond. Kaiser Permanente stands for equity for all.
Brand comes on at the end. Kaiser Permanente is emphasized from the beginning. There isn't a question about whether the brand belongs in this ad. This ad is actually about the brand's support of the LGBTQ community and taking pride in standing for equity. And the message is human. They believe in equity for all. And they stand. Kaiser Permanente stands for equity for all. Very creative tactic at the end, defining what Kaiser Permanente is with a phrase that's related to equity so people can understand the brand, and standing for pride at the same time. Really effective advertising, very different, approachable character, authentically delivering a message, not a flamboyant approach to a pride ad. Now, that doesn't mean flamboyant approaches can't be effective, but in this case, consistent with the brand tone, an authentic expression from the brand creates an emotional response and an implicit appeal for the brand that is positive after a single viewing of this 30-second spot. Really strong results from Kaiser Permanente, taking a different approach to their pride advertising and doing it in an authentic way, in a universally human way, that we believe we stand for equity for all. All right, now let's take a look at a different kind of approach to a pride ad. And I'm just going to show you this one. This one is the North Face ad. And you can see from the emotional curve here that there's not a lot of negativity, not a lot of negative emotion being expressed on the viewers' faces while they watch that ad. But the important question here is not just whether the ad is entertaining. The question really is it good for the brand? That's the first question. The second question will be, is it good for people? And we're going to get to that one as well. So let's play this and watch the emotional journey of the US general population while they watch this North Face ad.
Nature lets you be who you are.
Even gay.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are cordially invited to the Summer of Pride with my friends at the North Face. We're traveling all the gay across America, and everyone's invited. That means you.
Me.
And you.
Hello.
And you.
Wow.
Not you, though. You're too cute. Okay, just kidding. You can come. Put on your boots and come out. Side with us. See you there, besties. Don't you think this is all a little intense? I mean, look at you. You're in a literal tent right now. But no, this event will not be intense. Everyone is invited. Everyone is welcome. It's going to be so fun.
Highly entertaining. And you can see the different moments of the ad that are more or less entertaining. From an optimization perspective, it's a 60-second spot, and it feels a little tired in the middle, but still very engaging. You can see overall the numbers are actually quite high, and it does come back. The cute moments in the middle are obviously the greatest emotional engagement. But the North Face brand, where is it throughout all of this? Do we see much of the North Face brand? There it is on that jacket. You know, it's outdoorsy, right? We're not seeing an awful lot of the North Face brand. Yeah, and where's the call to action? Here we go. This is a real event, totally attendable. What is it? Where is it? What do I do? Where do I go? How do I get in a tent like this? Not a lot of call to action here, right? Incredibly entertaining, creative, but is it good for the brand? Let's take a look. We don't have to rely on people's opinions, right? We have scientific evidence of whether this was good for the brand or not. In fact, if you look at this data, directionally downward for all of the category. So not among the US general population, providing a lift in implicit perceptions of the North Face brand. And that's really interesting because it's so entertaining, right? It's an entertaining ad. If you look at that and all you're interested in is understanding whether people like your ad, you're going to be fooled into believing that that ad is good for your brand. Right? But it's not about whether people like your ad. It's really about whether your ad makes people like your brand. And in this case, we'll go a step further and say, does your ad make people feel more positive about other groups of people, We can have a social impact as well as a business impact with our advertising. In fact, we have a social impact with our advertising, whether we're aware of it or not. And when you consider that social impact of the $1 trillion advertising industry, I would say in the age of empathy, it's an imperative for brands to understand the social as well as the business impact of their advertising. And I'll come back to the social impact in just a second. Let's cut this data a few ways. You can see overall the conscious attitudes do change. We have this positive lift in supporting for the North Face brand after exposure to it, but not a change in the implicit mind. Can we understand what it is about this ad that gives us that positive change in attitudes? More accepting, more supporting, and if we look at that relative to the total population, I'll drop these results in here. You can see among total respondents, that's the total US general population, we have a lot of positive emotional engagement. Among people who feel the brand is more accepting after watching this ad, their emotional engagement with this ad is even more pronounced. And as you look at these results, I just want you to consider the sensitivity of this emotional measurement. If you have questions about whether this online facial action coding measure can reliably, accurately, valuable, and in a valuable way measure the emotional experience of your audience, take this as positive evidence of that. We see emotional engagement. We see emotional engagement that's even more pronounced among the people who have had the change in attitude that you're trying to affect. If we're trying to understand why people may or may not have more appeal for our brand, we can highlight the individuals who have a negative outcome in implicit appeal for the brand and understand where their emotional journey goes. Their emotional journey falls to a greater degree in the middle of this ad, that non-optimized middle 15 to 20 seconds. Otherwise, they follow the emotional journey of the general population pretty well. Again, if you're trying to optimize the impact for your brand, having this kind of insight of the elements of your creative that are impactful or not impactful, influential or non-influential, is really essential as a diagnostic to optimizing your ads. Okay. Now, before we go back into our deck, I want to show you one more result, and that is for the results on attitudes towards groups of people. Now, I mentioned that this is primarily used to understand impact on brand. But in implicit association testing, as we demonstrated at the beginning, you can measure attitudes towards any group, any concept, any object, any community, any brand, any stimulus. Instead of using the brand as the outcome variable, we wanted to understand whether this changed attitudes towards LGBTQ. Did it change attitudes towards the community in a positive or negative way? This is the social outcome. We can have these two things side by side. And so as we look at these results, I'm going to scroll down and you'll see the results. Instead of testing brand impact in this study, separate group of people, still US general population, we measured the impact on attitudes towards these three phrases: LGBTQ+, myself, and others. And take a look at this lift. This is truly remarkable. A single exposure to this North Face ad has a positive impact on reducing implicit bias towards LGBTQ. That is a remarkable social outcome. Now, let's be fair. This is momentary, right? This is the immediate reaction. This is change in the non-conscious mind. The implicit bias towards this group, LGBTQ+, changes after a single viewing of this ad. You may say, oh yeah, but it's going to wear out. That doesn't last. No, it doesn't. But what does last are emotional associations. The stronger the emotional association, the longer it lingers in memory. The second mechanism you have to lodge associations in the non-conscious mind of humans is repetition. When we pair two concepts together repeatedly, the associations between those concepts form, and the bond, that strength of association, gets stronger and stronger with more repetition. That's essentially how our advertising works. If you combine those two, if you combine emotional experience, emotional associations with repetition, you have your home run. It requires fewer repetitions for emotional associations to stay longer in memory, and repeated exposure to this advertising will reinforce this positive emotional association towards the LGBTQ community. Certainly there'll be wear out, no question about that, which is also measurable in a scientific way. But as a social outcome, I find these results incredibly encouraging and absolutely remarkable. But there's a trade-off here for the brand. And I'll stop here with the platform and jump back into the PowerPoint. There's a trade-off for the brand. Remember, that ad wasn't great for the brand. It wasn't terrible for the brand, but it didn't produce a positive emotional lift for the brand. So if you're a brand, you've got a choice with that ad if you have these results. Do we launch it and have our positive social impact at the expense of the brand? Or do we not launch it because it's not good for our brand? If we can even get advertisers to be thinking in this way about that trade-off between brand business impact and social impact, we can have an impact on empathy for the human condition. We can increase the understanding of how people truly feel and increase the understanding of why they feel that way. Then we're in a position to make deliberate choices about our marketing communications, whether they're authentic, whether they're good for business, and whether they're good for people. All right, I'll come back in here. So what is this platform? It's new to the world. This has never been seen before. It's change in the non-conscious mind and pinpointing the emotional moments that drive that change. If you are a subscriber to this platform, you get access to this kind of content. We're producing, if you're interested in this report, reach out to us. We're producing a report on June Pride advertising. We do this every June as a best practice for understanding how to effectively and authentically advertise within June and with Pride advertising to avoid rainbow washing. You can understand with scientific evidence, the real impact of your advertising. And it doesn't end with Pride ads. This is true for your Super Bowl ads. This is true for your social media. This is ads. This is true for any of your digital marketing. And I'll take it a step further. You can actually bring this upstream. So instead of just optimizing your late stage creative, your copy, optimizing post-production after you've invested all of your money into the production of your campaign, you can use this technology to understand the emotional reaction and emotional engagement and influence of your storyboards, of your animatics, to understand whether the story you're creating, the narrative, actually holds the potential to have the positive influence for your brand, or if you're trying to influence perceptions of groups of people, whether it has the potential to make that impact within society. Within this emotional intelligence platform, you have insight not into only the performance of your own ads, but you have emotional intelligence. You've got meta learning and best practices on the mechanisms within your creative process that can produce the right outcomes for your brand. If you'd like to demo this platform, you can go right to bit.ly/demo-si. And within this, you'll get a sign up and you can easily create and test your own assets. You'll get additional insight on how to learn how to improve your creative and how the platform actually predicts ad success. You'll have access to syndicated ad results and competitive norms with thousands of ads in the database, and you get those trends and best practices reports. As you subscribe to the platform and get more value out of it, you get increased demonstration of value within your creative and increased ROI from your marketing spend. When you can plot all of your creative assets on both engagement and influence, you can optimize the ROI for your marketing spend, for your media spend. We want ads that fall in the upper right-hand corner of this quadrant. We want them to be both influential and engaging. If they're engaging, they're emotionally evocative. If they're influential, they're changing the attitudes of your consumers. If you can hit the sweet spot of both of those two characteristics of effective advertising, you don't have to spend as much to have the same impact for your brand. Upper right-hand corner and every 2x2, right? That's where you want to be. The same is true here. Maximize engagement, that's half of your equation. Maximize influence, especially the implicit influence of your advertising. Okay, let's get into some questions. We can see that they're popping up in there. I am going to come out and stop share and take a look at some of these questions. Is there a reaction to the measurements themselves? Great question. Yeah, I love that question because absolutely, when you observe something, you change it, right? That's a scientific principle. So let's make sure that that's attributed to any kind of research that's being done. When you measure it, you change it. The key component of the answer to that question is that the normative performance on this is based on the exact same scientific methodology. So yes, absolutely. When we measure pre-post, we are priming respondents with, hey, this is an ad by North Face, because we've just had you evaluate the implicit appeal of North Face. But we do it within a competitive context. So we've set that stage, we've set the competitive context for the test. Then we show you the ad, then we measure again afterward. And so when you're looking at those normative scores, every ad that's been tested has been tested in the same way. So you know that lift, any impact or influence that you're getting, is due to exposure to that experience. And it's normed in the same way as every other ad that's in the database. Yeah, okay. Has there been any research done to show the long-lasting effects of these advertisements? Is it possible to have a short-term and or long-term implicit change in how they feel about the brand? I love this because this is a question where we were just addressing that with decay rate. There's decay on any persuasive communication, right? The first time you hear persuasive communication, it can be very motivational. It can be very influential. The further you get away from that persuasive communication, the more you're exposed to alternative points of view, other things that are happening in your life, happening in the market, happening in the world that influence your attitudes. So there's no question that there's decay rate. There's decay rate in any attitude, whether you're measuring it consciously or non-consciously. The power of this platform is that you can actually measure that decay rate. In longitudinal studies that we do, we're able to pinpoint how many repetitions are required and from which different sources are required to slow the decay rate and make it last longer. So if you test people on day 1 and you test people on day 5 and understand the differences in their implicit attitudes, and you do this on a representative sample of people so you can understand the averages, not just an individual, which would be unreliable, you can get a sense of what your decay rate is. The question becomes, how do I slow the decay in attitude change? And it's those two factors, repetition and emotion during the pairing of the concept. If you're emotional at the pairing of the concept, either your brand or groups of people, whatever attitude you're trying to change, and you repeat that exposure, you're going to lodge those changes in the memory structures more strongly in the minds of consumers, humans. Is there a reaction time? Yes, I answered that question. Let's see. Can my team use this platform and find these insights themselves? How does that work? Absolutely. I think the power of this is that it's automated. This is truly automated behavioral science. In 4 steps, you can load your ad, load your 3 competitors, specify your 6 brand attributes, choose your target audience. You hit go, and in as little as 24 hours, you have those results. This is a breakthrough in understanding human behavior. We no longer have to rely on people's opinions about whether they think our advertising is going to be effective or not. We have scientific evidence within 24 hours of whether it is effective or not. And it can be done on your own through an automated platform. We believe that this is not just the future of advertising testing. This is the future of human insight. By producing technology that measures how people truly feel and providing insight into the cognitive antecedents of that emotion, the why behind the way that they feel, we enable empathy. We're putting those 2 key pieces of information into the hands of advertisers, governments, and ultimately individuals, so everyone can understand how people truly feel and why. And if we can do that in an automated way, we can have a macro impact on empathy in the world. We truly believe that. We hope you see this as evidence that this is possible. One more question here. How have the Pride results differed this year over years past? And have you seen a difference? Yeah, we do a selection of ads and try to cross industries within these studies. And so we have done a lot of automotive ads. You didn't see these today, a lot of technology ads. Those tend to take a different tone and a different approach as well. We did see brand advertisers that went with an approach last year that didn't work, wasn't authentic for the brand, felt fake, wasn't authentic to the moment, wasn't authentic to the community. And we saw a change in tone by those brand advertisers trying to be more authentic this year and give a message that was true to the brand as well as true to the community and true to the moment. And in some select cases, we did see more positive outcomes for those brands that changed their approach and went with an authentic approach to their Pride advertising, trying to avoid being perceived as fake or rainbow washing with their advertising. Can you explain what implicitly means? Yes, absolutely. If that word seems foreign to anyone that's on the call, implicit means non-conscious. It means in your non-conscious mind. It's your system 1 thinking, if you're familiar with that type of model of cognitive processing. The system 1 mind is associative in nature. It represents the neural network associations that form in your mind and is automatic. You don't have conscious control over it. And that's why it's so important, because we want to be able to understand what the implicit impact is on people, not simply what they're willing or able to admit in a survey to us. Wonderful. That means we're at time. Thank you for all of the questions. I hope you found this presentation interesting and informative. And I know we have a wide audience for this. Again, let me emphasize, if you've been wondering whether measures like the non-conscious mind and facial action coding, the measurement of the systematic movement of the muscles in the face, is valid, is reliable, is sensitive, and is valuable, we hope that this presentation shows you that this is valuable, not just for business insight and business outcomes, but it's valuable for improving the human condition. And for those who are skeptical, please reach out to us. We would love to share this data with you and help others understand that this application of these technologies is all of those things. It's valid, it's sensitive, it's reliable, and it's valuable. And calls to action to not use these techniques, we feel are really unfounded. This is a positive impact for both business and social outcomes. And I hope we've been able to demonstrate that for you today. If you have interest in Pride advertising, please log into the platform, reach out to us, and we would love to talk to you about your own advertising and how to optimize it for your business and social outcomes. Thank you, everyone.